Hey everybody, in the game of Stargrave, the powers Break Lock and Data Knock both allow you to unlock loot from a distance. One works on physical loot while the other works on data loot. In this versus video, I'll be comparing the two against each other to decide which one is better. Hey everybody, I'm Alan, with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, tabletop gaming with bricks and blocks and helping to build your gameplay experience. In this video, I'll be discussing the objective information about Break Lock and Data Knock, going in depth about the game mechanics for physical and data loot, comparing these powers to unlocking loot the usual way, discussing other loot focused powers, give my pick for the best unlocking power, and then discuss some other variables to consider. So let's get to the bricks and blocks of Break Lock and Data Knock to find out which one works better for unlocking loot. Looking first at just the wording for these two powers. For similarities, both of them have an activation number of 12 and a strain of 1, and are line of sight powers, so they can target loot up to 24 inches away. For differences, the obvious thing is Break Lock targets physical loot, while Data Knock targets data loot. So just by the wording, the two powers are essentially equal. However, Break Lock is a core power for only one background from the main book, while Data Knock is a core power for two of those backgrounds, which gives Data Knock a very slight advantage here. And I'll point out that successfully using one of these powers does not grant the usual 10 experience points for that success, but does grant the usual 20 experience points for unlocking a loot token. Next, we'll take a look at the objective information for the actual loot tokens and see how that information affects the usefulness of the powers. When a figure unlocks a physical loot token using a normal unlock check, they have the option to pick it up as a free action. A figure carrying this type of loot is then encumbered, receiving -1 fight and -1 shoot, and they're slowed, which means their move is halved. And I'll add that the author has ruled that power moves are also halved by this. When a figure unlocks a data loot by means of a normal will roll, a figure is required to use a normal action to pick it up. Since a move action cannot be used for this, the figure that unlocks the loot is not able to pick it up in the same round, though another figure standing by the loot could pick it up and run. And data loot does not encumber nor slow the carrying figure. So both loot types have a bonus. For physical, you gain a free action to pick it up if you've just unlocked it. And for data, the figure receives no penalties while carrying it. However, one downside to using Break Lock to open up physical loot is that free bonus action to pick up the loot after unlocking it isn't given in this case. And this was clarified in the FAQ, and no exemptions were given if the officer is standing right next to it when they use Break Lock. So sometimes it's better not to use this power and just attempt to unlock it the normal way. With data loot, you can't immediately pick it up regardless of how you unlock it. So using a normal unlock attempt or using Data Knock have the same effect. And there's never really a downside to using this power other than enemy figures possibly being able to pick up something you've unlocked. So while both powers are unlocking loot from a distance, missing out on the free pickup action with physical loot means Data Knock gains another edge over Break Lock. Something to keep in mind with unlocking data loot using a normal unlock check is that not only do you not gain that bonus action, in some cases you actually lose actions. Let's say you have two figures starting their activations. One next to a physical loot and the other next to a data loot. Since they're already by the loot, they've spent some time likely exposed out in the open. Now, they both use their first action to attempt and succeed at unlocking the loot. The physical loot is picked up for free, and the carrier uses their second action to run to cover. Since the other figure doesn't automatically pick it up and can't use their move action to do so, if they're the figure you want to carry it, they have to forfeit their move action and then spend another turn exposed waiting to pick it up. Sure, they can run faster once they're carrying it, but there's a better chance they won't live to do so. This gives another point to Data Knock because of how the lack of the free pickup action can cost the figure further actions and possibly their life. Another thing to consider is how the other loot affecting powers factor into this comparison. There's only 2 other powers from the core book to look at, and they both affect data loot. Data skip allows you to move an unlocked data loot 4 inches. So combining this with the data knock power, you might never have to send a figure into the open to unlock or pick up one of these. And it can be used to make an enemy figure drop a data loot, as well as move it, which is helpful if you do unlock the loot from a distance, but your opponent picks it up before you can. Data jump allows you to transfer data loot from one figure to another. I think this power can be paired well with both data knock or with traditional unlocking though. However, if you unlock a loot with data knock and your opponent knows data jump, if they get to the unlocked loot first, they can jump the loot away from you quickly. So I guess that's kind of a point against data knock. There's more I'm going to say about these 2 unlocking powers, but based on the information I've laid out so far, the fact that break lock costs you an action and data knock can potentially save you an action, I believe the winner in this battle is data knock. There are some other variables though worth bringing up in this discussion, including your officers' backgrounds, other powers your captain or first mate have combined, and the soldiers you recruit. The Psionicist is the only background in the main book that includes break lock as a core power, meaning for everyone else, they can use data knock just as easily or easier. The problem with this being in the Psionicist's list of core powers is that if I'm selecting that background, I'm likely going to be penalizing them by leaving them unarmored so that I can take advantage of all the cool armor-restricted powers. And if I'm using them just to unlock loot tokens, it makes leaving them unarmored feel like kind of a waste. In fact, if I had watched this video before starting my own campaign, my Psionicist Golbloth would not have taken the break lock power for this very reason. With the soldiers included in the main book, the data unlockers and physical unlockers essentially have the same abilities, so they don't really factor into this discussion of whether break lock or data knock is better. However, in the Quarantine 37 supplement, the Mule Soldier is able to carry physical loot without the normal encumbered or slowed penalties. So if you do learn break lock, I'd recommend to combo it with one of these soldiers, as the loss of the free pickup action isn't an issue if you have a dedicated loot hauler that's not very likely to unlock the loot on their own anyway. Another combo is to select both break lock and data knock between your captain and your first mate. And while having your officers be your dedicated loot unlockers will limit some of your options on the battlefield, this means all your soldiers could instead be focused on combat, which can be a fun strategy. So let me know your thoughts about break lock and data knock and whether you've had different experiences than what I've laid out here. And let me know your thoughts about using your officers as your dedicated loot unlockers. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Thanks for watching and play well.